the internet is becoming so prevalent and people are storing such information in their computers, and identity theft is becoming widespread. And if somebody, say for instance for RiskTransfer, we deal in a lot of PEOs and they have a lot of personal information, social security numbers, names, addresses. Somebody gets a hold of one of those computers and they can steal someone's identity, and then the person will sue you for the data breach, and then you have to also pay for the creditor monitoring for every time thereafter. 71% of small companies do not have cyber liability. And I think a misconception is that they think it's going to be covered by their other liability coverage, such as their GL or the umbrella, or perhaps their crime. But this cyber liability is not covered under those other forms. For us, specific to RiskTransfer, there was a PEO salesperson, and he was on a plane, and he lost his laptop. Someone stole that laptop, and within that laptop there was a plethora of data, social security numbers. There was a lawsuit. Someone claimed that their identity was stolen. That suit resulted in $200,000 to pay the lawsuit, so that coverage paid for that. In addition, they have to then pay for creditor monitoring for that person for the next year, which in turn turned out to be an extra $100,000. So yeah, it can be quite expensive, and it's well worth it. The coverage is really not that expensive if you relate it to the suits and the cost that you will have to pay if you don't have the coverage. Companies get it. I mean, small web-based companies, large corporations, it can run the gamut. Even if you're a small home-based internet site and you're web-based, someone can sue you for copyright infringement, saying that you stole their idea. They'll sue you. They can sue you for that, and this coverage would pay for that lawsuit. And then they would pay for any public relations that will save your character from the defamation that people may have thought that you stole that. So not only does it pay for the lawsuit, but it also pays for the public relations thereafter to rectify it. The SIU is kind of conglomerated to sell those services. So if we get a regular submission and maybe we notice that this client is bare, they don't have this coverage, we think it's necessary, therefore we'll offer it. We'll give them just an indication, a quote, and say, this is worth it. It's really not that expensive, but if you look into it, it's really, really worth it. So as the SIU in a whole, we try to round out the coverages. Our clients just come and they have work comp, but they're also at risk for EPLI and they don't have that coverage. They're also at risk for the PL and they don't have that coverage. So we just try to inform them of the risks that are out there and the coverage that are available. If you have a web-based program, you have liability. Someone can, again, say that you took their ideas. Say you have information, you sell t-shirts, you have credit card information. If that is stolen, someone will go after you to recoup their money that was been stolen. Let's talk about cyber extortion. Someone steals some information from you, prevalent information that you do not want leaked out. So they demand a ransom from you. Or do you have the capital behind you to pay the ransom? If you do, you probably don't want to pay it. So you have coverage, and they will pay that. D&O stands for Directors and Officers Insurance. You know, in insurance we always like to use acronyms. That's one. So the D&O is basically an extension of professional liability, except it extends specifically to the directors and officers for any wrongful acts that they do while performing their job duties, within their job duties. Most companies don't have it because they assume that their PL will cover it. And a lot of the times a professional liability, PL, it doesn't extend to the directors and officers. They have to have their special coverage that will protect them in any lawsuits for any wrongful acts going forward. It's so critical because your professional liability policy does not extend to the directors and officers of that company. So if a lawsuit is placed specifically to the directors and officers, if you have professional liability, that policy will not pick up that exposure. Directors and officers can be sued for misrepresentation of a contract, not following through with what they say they're going to do per the contract, false information, wrongful acts in their professional capacity of their job. Another common claim would be false information, providing the client with false information. They would then in turn make a wrong decision, and then that decision could affect their business, and which would lead to a suit against one of the directors or officers. People that will sue directors and officers might be investors, shareholders, clients, contract holders, competitors. Directors and officers insurance will cover payments for wrongful acts of the directors and officers. It will also cover on behalf, it will also cover on behalf of the directors and officers themselves.
Say it one more time.
It will also cover on behalf of the directors and officers themselves. Some misconceptions about directors and officers insurance is that their general liability or the umbrella forms will cover it when they don't extend to that, and therefore they are void of coverage and are open and they're at risk. Not all policies are created equal. Some forms are more extensive, some are not. You have to be diligent in reading your policy form, your exclusions, your exceptions. You really have to trust in your agent to provide you with the best form available. We market the coverage. We market it to not just one carrier, a few. We get the forms back and we compare them. And then we offer the client, we show them the comparison, we break down the forms, what exactly they're covering, the limits that they're covering, and then we suggest the best one, the most comprehensive coverage. We provide them with all the knowledge and then tell them the cost of each, which cost covers what. You know, this policy may cost $15 more, but the coverage is beyond the other the other policy. So we do make a comprehensive disclosure and comparison of all forms. And that's really what you have to do to be a savvy buyer of insurance. That is the risk transfer difference. My name is Dawn Heath. I work for RiskTransfer. I am a marketing representative and I work within the SIU department.